What's good? What's good? What's good, people? Black Eyes TV in the house once again. Look at the sign. You know what time it is. We're back today with another insightful conversation. I'm being joined, and who's running it this evening is our brother Khonsu. He's talking to a brother and a sister about channeling and energies and all sorts. So without further ado, as you come in, you know the routine, hit that like button, share the video out, and here to take us further in, my brother Khonsu. Speak to the people then.
Greetings, family. Greetings. Yes, we are about to go on a journey with some amazing guests. We are going to speak about the state of current events, but not coming from your regular perception. We've been saturated with opinions, conjecture, and facts on the matters that have been happening. But we want to come more from a spiritual, metaphysical viewpoint of what's happening energetically on the planet and with all the events that were happening. So just want to kick off by introducing my special sacred guests. We have Galactic Clyde, the mighty Galactic Clyde. If you don't know, get to know. And beloved Queen, Sister Ankara from Birmingham Strong. Both very skilled in their field. Both serve the community spiritually, and we're just here to chop it up, and just build. So can I begin, Queens first? And Kara, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you serve the community, our community?
Blessings. Greetings. I am Ankara Ashay, tantric medicine woman. I work with the community by holding space, first and foremost, creating events, workshops, and services that allow people to really tap in and tune in with their deepest self. And I work with the body, so a lot of body work. So I release trauma by tapping into the body's consciousness, because the body is like an Akashic records. It holds everything. So by tapping into the body and understanding how to use breath and sound to alchemize and transmute emotions and unprocessed trauma, I help literally allow people to become a lot lighter, because they're shedding all this dogma, all this belief, and everything is energy. So when somebody is released, which is so powerful right now, they do feel a lot lighter, and they've got more of themselves available now to house this powerful soul. So the more we shed and release, the more space we create in our vessel to actually express the soul. There's less blockages and disturbances on a frequency and energetic level. So that's how I serve the community.
Wow. Tantric medicine woman, Sister Ankara. Thank you for that. And we move on to King Galactic Clyde. Can you introduce yourself, Clyde, what you do and how you serve the community?
Yes, greetings. I'm Galactic Clyde. I wear many hats in the field of the metaphysics and the likes. Astrologer, sacred geometry, numerology, different astrology systems such as the Mayan/Olmec and what is known as tropical Western astrology, as well as numerology and I'm an ontologist. So that's what I consider myself, an ontologist, meaning onk means life, but also onk means astrology, numerology, Kabbalistic, and Hermetic mystery. So the study of these fields are very important for life itself to evolve from the hidden to the revealed self, the true self of who we are. As we come here, in a sense of that we are also locked away from our true self if we don't really uncover or recover or reconnect to our true self, true values, true the mysteries and things of that night. So I serve the community in with sacred geometry, which is do the labyrinth. I make what a 42 feet labyrinth, which is similar to the labyrinth that is in the Chartres Cathedral from since the 12th century and been used by the ancient world. I draw it consecutively year by year and just make sure that I keep it up. And I ask people to come and walk the labyrinth, which is a walk in meditation. Also,
Wow.
with astrology, I teach astrology as well as do readings for people on a one-on-one personal basis, as well as numerology, teach as well as advise and looking at the cycles of the numbers and the planets and also into herbology. So also connect that with the cycle of the planets and the energies and the sacred geometry that is also connect with the plants. Also into crystals as part of the work that I do. And overall, I collect crystals, but I also have my favorite ones, and I use crystals especially when I'm doing labyrinth work and things of that nature. Yeah, so I cover a diverse area in metaphysics in that sense.
Wow. So, people, you could see why I invited these distinguished guests onto this show. Did you hear the loaded credentials? My gosh, the channelers of our community, amongst other things. So, yes, we're definitely going to go into all that was mentioned in this show.
Right. I've been, to be honest, I've been amazing. It's been such a blessed, phenomenal time right now. Because as Professor Khonsu was sharing, there was so much going on right now. But on an energetic level, there is so much upgrades and downloads, and there's a lot of things that we could be paying attention to when it comes to the whole wave of consciousness that is entering the planet. And it's interesting that on the start I was talking about release of emotions, release of energy. We're creating a lot of magnetism with emotions, with seeing things being upset, especially on a mass level. And this is magnetic, all these emotions. Then with our thoughts are going on this electric frequency, and we are creating, we could be, it's choice all the time of what technology we are creating internally. And it's very clever to have so much things going on right now when there's a huge wave of consciousness coming now, when there's a huge paradigm shift. It's so clever to have all this ruckus all start now in this particular time. So it's almost like there's so much different channels that we could be tuned into, but there's certain channels of ascension when it comes to the soul and it comes to being lighter. I know a lot of people resonate with Kemet and Ma'at, and we're all familiar with the heart being as light as a feather. When we are taking in certain frequencies of information, it's always good to tap into self and realize what's happening in the body, because sometimes our mind gets really enticed with things are exciting. It's like, oh my god, this is kicking off, that's kicking off. Our mind wants to figure everything out, but the body knows what going on. The body doesn't, it does know. It's got so much memory, so much consciousness in it. So the more we kind of tap in and go inside, even though there's so much outside we could say like we need to be aware of, but the shift is happening inside. It's happening internally, and we just don't want to miss out, because everything, there's always choice. No one's going to force anybody to ascend or force anybody to upgrade. We've got choice in this, and there's always going to be factual information out there. And just because it doesn't seem very positive or it doesn't seem uplifting doesn't mean it's not factual. I had a conversation with my dad today, and he was telling me all this information, what's going on, and he was like, I'm not being negative, but you need to know this, everything that's happening. But when I have certain conversations, I'm very sensitive to energy. So when I have certain conversations, there can be almost an energetic kind of smog, like a smoggy energy around certain conversations. And then when I am having just being tuned into self, that smog dissipates. So it's an interesting time because we've been told it's quarantine and told to stay inside, but there is a lot happening inside our vessels right now, and it's so alluring to look out the window or look on the news and see what is going on. And let me just tune in now. I actually channel, so sometimes I can feel that higher self or other beings want to come through. And right now, I've noticed a change in how I speak. So you might notice other frequencies getting ready to come through now. So as I was saying, there is so much going on right now outside, and it is alluring, but there is a wave of intergalactic consciousness sweeping over us. There really is. And it's so clever because, as I mentioned, free will, we can choose what we want to pay attention to. We can choose what interests us. We can choose what we naturally gravitate to. But it is, as it's clear as day, that it's serious times. And it's not just what's going on outside when we look out the window. There's so much things going on an etheric level. On an etheric level, there is so much beings and ancestors that are all with us now because a layer has literally been shed. Those interdimensional layers. So yes, it might be a lot of chaos, a lot of mania, but it does actually seem, from my bird's eye view, that it is a healing crisis, and everything that has been done in the dark is coming to light. So a lot of the time when we take medicine and we seem like we're getting fever, we're not necessarily panicking and saying, oh my God, we're getting hot, what we're going to do. We know we have taken an antidote and medicine, and it is part of the process. So a lot of panic comes from us not knowing the process and what is happening and what is part and parcel of the healing and the ascension of the earth. So when we really tap in and tune in and decide where are we going to direct our awareness, because right now it is such a sensitive time with these frequencies that I mentioned. Our awareness is building bridges to realities, to paradigms. Everything's not just going to shift like that and it be roses and nirvana. No, there is always going to be a certain level of perpetrator. There might be always an oppressor. There might be always a victim. Yes, it's duality. Everything exists. But the thing is now that we are quickening the speed to that which we are gravitating towards. We are quickening. There is a huge, fast cycle that's happening quicker and quicker. And our awareness is a bridge to that reality. Our awareness literally bridges us and connects us to a timeline, and they need their timelines to still exist. So they need our attention, they need our awareness to fuel their agenda, because their agenda needs fuel. And without us and our soul energy and our electric energy and our hearts as well, because that's one thing that I didn't mention. We talk about the 5G and this and that. Our hearts are going into that fifth dimensional frequency, and our hearts are able to generate the biggest shields around us all, the biggest, the toughest, strongest armor. But like I said with my at about the heart being as light as a feather, that is the judgment. So when that heart is as light as a feather, there are certain other things that come with that. That electromagnetic frequency radiates all around your being. So when you are walking down these same streets that people before you or come after you might be going down those same streets and being troubled and being caught up in ruckus because of your vibrational frequency and the energetic magnitude of the heart and what it's radiating, you will be invisible to that. So there is so much going on, and we do have so much power. We have so much power, but it's literally tapping in and tuning into self and being very, very, very mindful, because if we were not powerful beings, they wouldn't be wasting their time with all this. They wouldn't be wasting so much effort. There wouldn't be so much battle, chaos, struggle. It wouldn't be necessary if we were weak. It's just keeping us asleep. That is the main thing. It's all about honing in and tapping into these waves. So the times that we're coming in, there is this huge, big shift. Huge. So with the technology outside of us showing us that it is upgrading, it is only reflecting what is happening in the cosmos, what is happening with our beings. We are upgrading. This is the fifth dimensional frequency, and that frequency is almost just like another plane of existence. So imagine it more as planes, and there's a net over us. So this net, I like to call it the veil. There's a veil stopping other dimensions from being in our awareness, unless certain people, seers, people born with different abilities, are able to just to gravitate throughout veils. This veil is thinning and thinning and thinning, and it is a merging. So it's not just a hopping out of one dimension into another. It's that this is coming down. The heavens, the states are coming down into this plane, because that net that held them away and held them so we weren't getting and tapping into these things is dissolving. It's been so time. It's like being in isolation. Let's just say I've been on isolation. We've been on timeout or whatever you want to call it. And now that isolation period is over. We're not in isolation. So these beings, there's going to be beings tapping in. There's going to be all these guys. We're going to have an influx, such an influx of galactic communication now. Galactic. And this is what I'm saying about the dimensional, the shifts, because the more energies that are around us with the resonance of higher frequencies, higher consciousness, when that's around us, our beings start to tune in and tap in just like an aerial, and we allow a broadcast to come through our beings of this dimensional shift. But again, in order for it to come through, if we're full of blockages, we're full of grief, we're full of anger, we're full of this, we're full of that, it's just like, okay, there's no force. There's no force in this. No one's got to do anything. It's all choice. It's all alignment. It's all frequency. Those frequencies will come. But if we're not resonating with that, it's not going to force itself up on us. That's not going to happen. So that's why the meditation, that inward journey, and that awareness and direction, that conscious direction of awareness is key. And I cannot speak for everyone because we've all got different roles to play in this. We've all got different dharmas and different journeys and different cycles. So it's not for everyone. So the main thing is always going to be knowledge of self, know who you are, because the more you know who you are and tune in, you can move according to that role.
No
You can
doubt.
know if you're a person that's meant to be at a protest. You can know if you're a person that's meant to be making this next level of technology. You could know if you're meant to be doing broadcasting, letting everyone knows what's happening. So I can't speak for anybody and say, oh, we all should be doing this, because that's not the case. The only thing we should
Yeah,
all
that.
be doing is knowing self and then
Sister,
allow self to lead the way.
let me see if I can bring Galactic Clyde in. Unmute your mic, brother. Can you hear us?
I just did.
All
Yes,
right.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, because I know your computer was kind now. So before you have another mishap, add to the conversation. I know Khonsu was asking, or I was about to ask you, your perspective on what's been happening, how you're seeing certain events. And obviously, you've heard little bits and bobs of what the sister's been talking about as far as energies and where we are consciously. Speak on that, brother. Um,
Okay, yes, he talks about the fifth dimension, or what is classified as fourth, fifth dimension. Which I agree with. We're moving from a third density planet, which is a third, fourth density planet, to a fourth, fifth density planet. It's has been explained, and this is energetic wise in that sense. Astrological wise, we are at what the ancient called the Zeptepi, the top of the hour, the grand year. The grand year is the total of all the cycles of 2,160 years come to a combination of the full cycle, which is considered 26,000 years, or 25.9 something 9, yeah, thousand years. Yeah, so which is we round it off, as astrology said, 26,000 years, just for the maths in that sense. And so we're at the top of the hour in terms of time and space in that sense, which they call the Zeptepi. Zeptepi means first time. This is symbolic to the year on a higher octave. Yeah, the body is set up the same way. The body from head to feet is symbolic of the year. Why? The head is Aries and the feet is Pisces. You go all the way down from the head, the neck, the shoulders, chest, breast, all the way down. You go to Pisces, which is the cycle of 1 year in the physical body. And so we come to the higher octave of what is called the year, which is the combination of 26,000 years, which is the combination of 12 cycles of 2,160 years. And the deep state, or people in the secret community, they call it they coin the phrase New World Order, but they're not the ones who order the world. They're not the ones who making the order here. It's the universe that sets up the order. They're more about disorder, and as opposed to order. They're more about chaos as opposed to improvement in that sense. And so the planet is shifting, the planetary frequency is shifting in many ways to get us up to speed with the next level of consciousness and development, which, they said in the Vedic system, they call it, we're coming to the mental power. And I did a write-up in connection to the wearing of the mask, which I call the closing of the mouth ceremony that we're all getting engaged in, because the power that is being distributed, or that's going to be distributed, is the power of the mind, where we don't actually have to speak things to make it happen, which is what the fourth, fifth dimension is about. Fourth, fifth dimension is about manifest thought. You think it, you're there. Yeah.
Wow. All right. I'm back. We may have to do a part 2. But for
No, you're
now,
nice and clear now. You're nice and clear
oh
now.
my
That's
Chris,
better.
like cool, like shing, Chris, like my shungai water. You see it, shungai.
Yeah.
That's right. Nice and clear now. Now you can conduct the ceremony
Ah,
properly, my brother.
all right,
Yeah.
let's go in because both of y'all dropping some jewels. And what I wanted to, I mean, fascinating. I mean, you mentioned about the closing of the mouth ceremony, which I definitely want to expand upon. But I wanted to shift things a little, and then we'll come back in the mix. Just in terms of something I wanted to address, I think Galactic Cloud, I'm going to ask you first, but in terms of there's a changing of the guard, some say that is happening at the moment, and we're seeing this enact physically as well as metaphysically. What fascinates me is the taking down of the old heads, the statues, globally around the planet, including I believe England kickstarted it this time round, in Bristol. But I want to know your perception on statues in connection to the earth energy grids. I mean, some of these statues are put in certain positions where they are almost set in stone and iron in terms of their energy. They're put in, so we can, there's good example of that will be the obelisk, the Egyptian obelisk that they took, stole. There's one in Washington. I've been to Rome and I've seen it where the Pope does his speech from the window. There's a massive obelisk right outside that window. And there's one in London, of course, on the South Bank. So it just seems as keeping a historical frequency set in stone and iron. And we know the ancient Egyptians had a similar science where their stones still exist today. The Pyramid of Giza, that it's termed, is still here, tens of thousands of years later. So I just want to know your view, Galactic Clyde, on the taking
Okay.
down of the statues.
Yes, yes. Statues are actually esoteric or magical ritual that are put in place, and the statue represents the ritual that they use to anchor certain energies in connection to the system that is ruling. And case in point, you mentioned the obelisk. The obelisk, when it was put in place, there's a book called by Peter Tompkins called The Magic of the Obelisk. And in there, it explained the rituals that were set up when they put the obelisk in place. Actually, I think it was John 16. They put the scripture of the Bible in all the language under the obelisk when they put the obelisk in place. So God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And why did they use the scripture? Well, when you go back to ancient and understand that they're not talking about SON, they're actually referring to SUN. Why? Because the ancient viewed the obelisk as a ray of the sun. Yeah, so when the obelisks are put in place, the obelisks are used as a symbol to draw down the energy of the sun because it's made from granite stone. And granite stone, if you put it out there in the sun, it gets very hot. You can cook under granite stone. Yeah, because it's so hot. It would burn your fingers once it gets thing. My phone is getting hot there. I had to actually get a bottle hot cold water just to cool it down because it wasn't taking the charging.
My laptop's on the ice pack.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So what happened? We're anchoring more light, and that's what happens. I did a document before a couple of years ago. I said accessing more light, and I was encouraging people to take more of the ginkgo herb because in taking the ginkgo herb, it helps you to access more light because those herbs help to raise the vibration. And so I call it accessing more light. The ancient was doing that in connection with the obelisk because those granite, they heat up the sun energies and you're more in tune with Ra in that sense. So the statues are very symbolic because it means that we're at now the changing of the god in terms of the magical ritual. Because each time the statues are removed, you're actually breaking down the rituals and this that are in place to that put those statues together. So you find a breakup of the cycle in connection to the change order. Another thing that is important of the 26,000 year cycle that I was talking about, the ancient divided into two cycles similar to the year, which is night and day. in the year have a night and day cycle. You have spring, summer is considered the day cycle, and fall, winter is the night cycle. The ancient divide said that every 13,000 years we go to the dark side of that 26,000 years, and then another 13,000 years we go to the light side, which we consider the golden age. We're coming to the end of the 13,000 years of darkness and negativity and all of that on the planet, moving into a time of light. And that's when we're getting this whole download to boost us into the other dimensions in terms of fourth, fifth dimension.
Okay, okay. I mean, can you expand upon you mentioned about the closing of the mouth ceremony? I guess in juxtaposition to the Egyptian philosophy of the opening of the mouth
Of the mouth.
ceremony.
Yes.
So I also saw the symbology in terms of our ancestors. They were put iron masks were put on them, to as punishment, and I just wanted you to expand upon what you mean by the closing of the mouth ceremony. Symbolically, people wearing masks all around the planet.
Yes, we know that this pandemic, as they call it, is actually a plandemic and a scamdemic because of all the information that has come out since they've actually came out with or agreed that we're in a pandemic. We know that there's some tricks and there's some issues going on in the backbench of the scientific community. And what I classify that we're going to a medical Nicaea. We're actually entering the age of Aquarius. Some people say we're already there, but the age of Aquarius have to do with more science and aspects of technology. And the ages are actually retrograde cycles. They're not forward moving cycles, they're retrograde cycles. So with each age, we have to redo, we have to rework, we have to deal with the issues that the age represent. Case in point, the age of Pisces, we deal with all this religion and spirituality that has been out of place and the misconceptions and all of that that came down the pipe. And a lot of this happens during the time of the Council of Nicaea when they decide what the rest of the world should believe or follow or practice, and they block out the ancient teaching, but yet coded within there was still the ancient teaching for those in the know. So what is happening on the planet as we move into the age of Aquarius, we're dealing with a medical Nicaea, just like the Nicene Council for Christianity. They're creating a medical Nicaea. They're reinterpreting or they're reorganizing things for us to follow, which is not really holistic. It's not really natural in the sense of they're talking about they were in a pandemic, but yet they're telling that there is no cure, and yet lots of people that come up with remedies that works and cures that works, they are being put in the bench and they're not considered counted because the whole emphasis is vaccination, which is a plan or a scam that they have in terms of total control of humanity. But that's not going to happen because we're in the last reel, and as Jimmy Cliff said, it is in harder they come star, don't die in last reel. So we're the stars, we're the ones that can be rising above this. But this kind of issue that is happening is awakening a lot of people to the conscious realization of the issues of government. In 2017, I talk about Saturn entering Capricorn and what it represents in terms of government. I call it a worldwide Saturn return, where government of the world is going to be in a lot of hot waters. And I said it's going to be a restructuring of the world. And actually, I got a video. It was video, and I have that document where I discussed that. Actually, I have it in audio as well as video. And so we're reaching a restructuring of the world based on a Saturn 30-year cycle return, and also with Pluto. But the strong point of this cycle is the last decan of the conjunction between Saturn and Pluto, which the last decan of Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn represents Virgo, which deals with issues of health and analysis. And so we're dealing with somewhat of a crisis in technology, in issues of health, but it's also raising the consciousness so we can get on the platform of dealing with real health as opposed to falsification of health and healing via vaccination. So a lot of people are coming on board to understand the truth behind vaccination, the false premise of government and doctors.
Okay, yes, I hear you loud and clear. I mean, and Kara mentioned that we are in a healing crisis. And Kara,
Yes,
you also mentioned about fifth dimensional frequencies. I mean, I'm fascinated with this term, especially number five, which maybe Clyde can expand upon a bit later. But there was a panic. It's kind of died down now in terms of 5G, five, let's say five and the letter after F. I was told on YouTube, you get blocked. All right. There's that one, but there's also fifth dimensional, 5D, 5D ascension. So we've got this correlation of the fives, the negative five, five, and the letter after F. And then we've got 5D, fifth dimensional ascension, which I'm hearing a lot of talk about in kind of new age movements, etc. So can you expand upon that, Queen Ankara, in terms of your perception of what tangibly, what is this fifth dimensional frequency and ascension look like in this current state of events?
So I'm just laughing because you use the word like tangibly, because when
yes,
you do like the frequencies, a lot of times it's an internal process. That internal process does have an outward reaction. So you could say people could be more tuned in to their ancestors that have passed. So like clairvoyance, mediumship,
Yeah.
psychic abilities. These are things that people could have not experienced before, and now all of a sudden this is now they're tapping into certain things. Like myself, my sensitivity has just, especially within this period of the last 3 months, or this like quarantine season business, has just gone through the roof. Like it's been some fast track. The ability to tap into frequencies and have frequencies move through me and use my vessel to convey a message, to like channeling these kind of things. But also people that maybe weren't so into the spirituality things. Galactic Glide mentioned about people being more aware and wanting more information about things like health, things like vaccines. People now doing their own research on government agendas about politics. There is a lot of mass awakening happening where people aren't buying what they used to buy before. When it comes in both, and play on words in both ways, what people are being told now, people are just like, that don't make sense. And people are doing their own research now. So that's another thing where it looks like it's going to affect everybody differently depending on where it at vibrationally as well. And our role, like I mentioned before, everybody, I think you went off, was talking about roles, and the best thing is people knowing self, because when you know self, you understand your role now. So now you can go along with what you're meant to be doing on a vibrational level, on a physical level, spiritually, emotionally, and you're tapping into self. And that might not look like what I'm doing or what your neighbor's doing, but it doesn't matter as long as you are tuned in to the same currents. The same currents are going to guide everybody differently. It's like electric. Electric is the source, but if we put electric in the toaster, it's going to be operating one way. If we put it in the hairdryer, it's going to be operating totally different. It's the same source of consciousness, and depending on who we are, our role, what we came here to do, and it's being aligned, we're going to express that same consciousness differently in our own unique way. So it literally is about tapping into self, and that's how you know, and you can see that this wave, this frequency is around us just by seeing, okay, what's my family talking about now? They've shifted in conversation. They don't used to talk about these things no more. Everybody has shifted.
Yeah.
There's just very different degrees.
Different degrees depending on where you're at, you know, and what level you're at. I mean, my observation is just walking through the neighborhood, walking past parks and stuff. I'm seeing families, you know, playing with their children. I mean, everyone should be at work. This is like, you know, 2 o'clock in the day, but people are like enjoying their families and connecting. And I get a sense people collectively are saying, you know what, this is really what it should be like. We were so caught up in a daily grind, rushing to work at 7 o'clock, coming back at 9 o'clock. And it just seems collectively people are just realizing, you know, what have they got us on, man? You know, this is really how life should be. I mean, maybe that's potentially how the change will manifest. You know, people will demand more time instead of working for the machine. But I wanted to shift on Galactic. I want to ask you a question. I mean, Ankara, you mentioned about streams and flow. And I had this splendid PowerPoint all lined up to graphically illustrate this, but it's okay. We're going to flow with it. I had images globally in every continent, actually, you know, all the continents of the world, including NASA. NASA showed a picture. Maybe we'll have a part 2 and I'll show it. They showed a picture of a Black Lives Matter demonstration from, you know, a space station. Also, when I said all continents in terms of the impact of Black Lives Matter, that includes Antarctica, where the station in Antarctica, I had a fantastic illustration to show, but I'll just verbalize it. They said that we support Black Lives Matter, and they showed the team that were Black that are working in Antarctica. So that covered all continents. So where I'm going, Galactic, in terms of flow and energy, there were aerial views that I observed of masses of people. All you can see was tiny little ants all over the world, just energetically congregating. In America, you saw rows that were maybe 5 miles long, even longer, and you saw a stream of just people. So I just want to know, you know, like energetically, what is that? What is Black Lives Matter symbolic of? And what does it say in terms of energetic flow of people, of souls? That was a load of questions.
That's an interesting one, because Black Lives Matter as the organization is a very controversial organization, because it, especially the conscious community, it does not represent the conscious community in itself, in its inception, in its ideology and things of that nature. So there's some issues there in connection to the Black community and the organization Black Lives Matter. The concept is a very powerful concept because it's aligned with Saturn in Capricorn. Let me explain. Saturn represents, I call the Lord of the Perfect Black. And 2017, every around midnight, I used to put out some document in connection to the Lord of the Perfect Black, which is about Saturn and the coming renaissance of African or Black people throughout the world. I call it, we're coming into a renaissance or rebirth. I actually was saying that on a lot of the WhatsApp group I am, and I call it the Lord of the Perfect Black. And it seems like we enter a certain leap as a Black community when Saturn returned, in its sense, because it's rule Black, especially are connected with Saturn. We call it Sekar in Kemetic. But it also represents discipline. It also represents our life work. It have its different representation for in the world. We look at the hemp, especially the last time Saturn made that return, which was 30 years ago. The ganja was big amongst the Rastas and the push of the ganja. This 30 years time come around, we're moving heavy with the hemp and the ganja in that sense. But the hemp, if you take a hemp seed and you put it in the blend and you blend it, it'll turn all black. You'll get the white milk, but the rest of it will be black soot. When you make the medicine from the hemp, you also get black. So it itself ruled by Saturn in that sense, color black. But let's get back to Black Lives Matter. We look at the whole scenario, what take off to kind of bring a whole world issue on the Black Lives Matter just in March is it connected to the death of Floyd. We look at what happened with his death. That the police put his knee on the police they put the knee on his neck and suffocate him. That's the story. That's the story that we got. We look at the planetary influence around that time or in connection. The knee the knee or the joints represent Capricorn in its thing. The bone structure, the skeleton, every part of the bone structure of the body represents is a representation of Saturn. But the neck is a representation of Taurus. Saturn is not in Taurus. Who's in Taurus? Uranus. Where was Saturn? Saturn was in Uranus sign, Aquarius. Uranus rules Aquarius. So Saturn and Uranus was squaring each other by sign, and Uranus and Taurus. But you see that that whole concept is the activation of the planet Uranus in Taurus, which represents the rebel in values or revaluate in that sense, because Uranus in Taurus means that it's a revolution in values. And that's what you're going to see happens with in general in our community or in the communities of the world. We deal with a value system. And that's why, as even though Black Lives Matter went out there as an organization and as a concept, and you have all of the taking down of the statue, it was just a temporary fix in terms of connection to the movement of Saturn in Capricorn. Not in Capricorn, but in Aquarius. But Saturn just went there in Aquarius and actually it went retrograde. So what is to come? That's what we're seeing. What is to come? A revolution in values is happening, but also a challenge to the aspect of the value system of the Black Lives Matter and people that reflect that the concepts in terms of I'm going right there, I'm going gay and lesbian, trans and all of this stuff that represents, I said it long time, when Saturn go into Aquarius, you're going to see a lot of issues come on the table about the trans, the gays, the lesbian, all that stuff, because we're dealing with a revolution in values and the value system. But it also has to do with finance. There's a lot there I can talk about. I could talk about Jupiter retrograde, Jupiter in Capricorn, which means the planet of wealth is in its fall, it's in a downturn. And so we're also seeing issues along that. So there's a lot of different areas there I could go. But just to touch on, there's a revolution in value. And we see that what we have here is something to come in connection to, we're dealing with the issue of the authenticness of the Black Lives Matter organization. The value system is going to come on the chopping block. And as Saturn, because Saturn is now retrograde to go back in Capricorn, but when he goes fully in Aquarius, these issues going to come to the table on dealing with the LGBT team and all of the stuff along that line, and what is true value in terms of relationship, sexuality, all of this going to come to the fore. And it's going to be an interesting one as the ruler is squaring Saturn at the same time. So it's going to be a very important change order in these areas.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you loud and clear. I mean, Black Lives Matter. People are starting to look at the movement sideways. One of the reasons is because it seems it's a silent partnership, silent partners, meaning any organizations that has come up in kind of liberation. You know, let's be free, Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, etc. There has been a face. With Black Lives Matter, the face is basically the smartphone. Everyone's getting texts, meet at Trafalgar Square, meet in Washington. And the three founders, who are, they state that they're proudly queer, three sisters. Those are the founders. We're not hearing about them. The other thing that I'm noticing is within the Black Lives Matter protests, you're seeing a lot of rainbow-colored flags with fists, black fists on them, saying transgender lives matter, saying gender neutral lives matter, saying queer lives matter, etc. Which is fine, you know. Everyone has their tribe. But the confusing thing for me is what does that got to do with Black Lives Matter? So we're seeing. I've got images, mostly English people, European, that are holding these placards saying "Queer Lives Matter," etc. So it's just a mixture. It's not clean cut like in the civil rights. We shall overcome, etc. As one people. It just seems to be a lot of stuff in the mix, which ties into what you're saying about what is to come. So, in terms of energetically, I wanted to ask you also, Galactic Clyde, there was an image that occurred in America, in the US. It was an image of the US Senate Democrats. They were all in kente cloth. I don't know if you saw that image. They were in Kent. They
No, I
had
haven't seen it.
English US Senates. I'm wondering if shall I? I don't know if I should risk a share screen. That would be nice if I can show you it. But there was an image of the U.S. Senate, and they were adorned in kente cloth, and they were on one knee. And what they were saying is that that they were apologizing for what happened with Floyd.
There is a famous picture about this whole knee situation that nobody talks about. I'm going to touch on it a little bit. I think about 4 years ago or something like that, I did a talk in Tottenham. A sister was running Sister Alexand was running an event, an expo in the community. And when my time to speak, I went down on the knee and I put my hands up in the air,
Yeah.
which is symbolic of a star system. And
Okay.
a lot of people didn't know what I was doing, but I was showing how a kind of power move. Okay, and I did that, and I, in some way, I think that there's a certain type of ritual is going on with this whole knee thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think this is what they're trying to portray in many ways, uh, esoterically.
Okay.
Now I know everybody anxious to see what's this star system.
Mm-hmm.
It's the strongest man. It's the star system that represents what they call um, it's like Samson, but the star is called what is called again? It's the star system. It represents a power, of Samson in that sense. It's not called Samson. I'm trying to remember the name for it. And you would see it all on bended knee. It's coming from ancient Egyptian. It's on the knee because it's a symbol of power. You understand? And so what they actually ritualizing in is almost like they're trying to assert power.
Mm.
That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get you that image. But we're saying it here for the first time in that sense. I'll get you
Mhm.
that image. It's a fixed star. And
There's a
yeah,
Hercules constellation. Is that it?
Hercules, that's the one. Hercules, you got it. Yes, I couldn't remember the name. Hercules. And you
Mhm.
always see it represented on the knee.
Yeah.
When the army is, when people are training, that's one of the most powerful training, to go down on the knee, come up, go down, come up, go down, because
Yeah.
it strengthens that power. It
Right.
represents that Hercules, and that's
Mhm.
what you're seeing. It's a sort of Hercules type ritual that is
Okay.
being portrayed. It's
Mm.
almost like they're claiming dominance,
Yeah.
or they're trying, I should say, to claim dominance,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a time when we're in the year of return as African people, where we know that is the time that we come into our power. So
Yeah.
it's a sort of ritual that they're portraying, Hercules type ritual, a Herculean ritual.
Yeah, the Herculean ritual. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, what I'm leaving technology alone because it's Mercury retrograde. I'm leaving the technology alone this session. Okay, we'll come back to that. But the image I was describing, it had you know, in Congress you have the Senate Democrats. You know, just like I guess like the Houses of Parliament. Well, their version
Okay.
of the Houses of Parliament, they did a photo op where they apologized to all of the lives lost, like George Floyd. They apologized to Black Lives Matter, and these congressmen and women took a knee, but they all had kente cloth sachets on. So that was the symbolism that I was talking about, which
But
you eloquently
if
broke down. And
sorry,
there's
if
one
we
more
look
thing.
at that,
Yeah,
sorry,
I just wanted to
can I
add to
speak?
that because I know
Okay,
you're
go
going to
ahead.
comment upon it. The second thing is you had a police force. There was about maybe 30 police, and there were
Yes.
protesters outside the police station, and all the police took the knee. So you had a bunch of cops all taking a knee. Um, Interpretation was they were apologizing by taking a knee, but they look pretty strong in that formation of all taking a knee. So those two things is what I wanted to expand upon in the symbolism.
Well, that would consider hypocritical to take the knee because the knee was the offense. You see, and to do that, it should be considered an offense because it
Mm,
was an offense to George Floyd. So it'd be an offense for them to come with us on bended knee when it's the bended knee will kill him. They used the knee to kill him. So it should be considered an offense for them to do that as an apology because it's almost like they're glorifying it as opposed to apologizing for it.
mm,
So they should see that as an offense as opposed to anything else.
yeah.
Because
Okay.
it's almost like they're jeering it, you know? Can I touch
Yeah.
on something on the 5G before we move on? And I'm sure sister would agree with me as well. The ancient Mayan talk about in their prophecy, talk about where we're heading. And there's talks about we that are alive now are walking between worlds, and that's what I'm talking about, walking between worlds, because one world come to an end, 26,000 year cycle, and a new world begins another 26,000 years cycle on the run, on the go. But what they're saying that we're coming into a part beyond technology, and as much as it seems like we're moving into a high technological society, what they actually said that we're actually moving out of it. We're moving to a part beyond technology because technology represents our failure to uncover the jewels of self, the jewels of the spirit, because we're supposed to be clear audience, you know? We're supposed to be able to talk and communicate from distance without the telephone because we are the true telephones in that sense. The mother can telephone, a brother can pick up a child who wants breast milk if she's out shopping because she feels the energy of the child and the breast starts, dripping milk and she knows. It's a direct connection we have. So technology represents our failure. But because we're moving into higher dimension, technology would be out. And that's what they're saying. We're moving to a part beyond technology. And even now, people are looking to get rid of their smartphone or get a second phone that is not so smart, so that they don't get to be controlled. So you can see it's already been set up that we're moving, we're downgrading as opposed to upgrading because we know the power that it's using technology against us. Sorry about the noise in the background.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, in terms of technology, I know that we're hearing a lot about Microsoft and IBM, but Amazon is popping up because the truth is coming to light on all angles. But Amazon is also popping up as one of those that have a big contracts with big global companies, and they are spearheading AI and quantum computing. So that's where the shift is moving, and then we'll keep our eyes on that. But Sister Ankara, I just wanted to chiming on you and your thoughts about what Galactic Clyde was sharing, especially about the nurturing element of things energetically.
Super, like super powerful about like the technology and how we are this new technology. It's us, it's not outside of us. They're saying, okay, we want faster connection, but as you said about clairvoyance, clairaudience, that connection is built in, literally. It's so powerful. And again, like what you were saying, even with the knee, I know the kneeling and how the knee was the offense, but then me from expecting an applause when they do it as a sorry. And when you were talking about that, it just kind of reminded me of the cross and how before the cross was the offense. Like Jesus said, they said that he died on the cross, but then they'd give everybody now a cross to wear with him hanging on it, and that was just almost like a symbol of power. And it's just like if someone's brother died by the gun, you wouldn't all wear a gun and say, "Oh," you just wouldn't do that, because you'd look at it and think, "I don't even want to associate with that." So the whole thing with like the cross and the knee, and you even mentioned it when you was talking about the Nicene, like the council that come together, and then they put a new kind of religion and a new way for people, and now the Aquarius and that being with health and people coming together, and they're putting kind of a new trying to they're attempting to, let's be correcting Gamma now, they're trying, and it's like you're seeing, you know, about the cycles, you're seeing things repeat and replay, because it's almost like it's nothing new. It's almost like almost the same kind of theme, but they use different props now, but the theme is kind of always the same. And once you kind of cotton on to that, even like with the bio warfare and everything that's going on now, you can kind of see it's nothing, it is literally nothing new. So because of that being nothing new, the only new things now are these waves and these currents of frequency. And it's funny actually how I keep on saying waves, and it's meant to be like Aquarius and known as the water barrier, because recently the water energy, now I'm talking from more like of a psychic angle now, the water energy, I can always like to call it a flood of consciousness, a stream of consciousness, because this energy is trickling. It's like it's literally trickling through the valley, it's trickling through into our reality, and we are shifting. And you did want to touch on the like the fifth dimension and five, do you know what that, and our hearts are such a powerful electromagnetic generator of frequency that will literally create a field around us. And the field is so powerful. So some people, you mentioned shungite in your water and how you've got shungite, and that protects against free radicals. So does the heart. So does the heart. When we have that heart awakening and that heart expansion, the power of the energy that literally exudes out of that heart-centered being is literally powerful. We are our own technology. And also the fire energy, the kundalini, as things begin to heat up, there's this kundalini of the earth as well. The kundalini has been activated. So the kundalini, that rise of that Shakti, that primordial feminine energy, literally beginning to rise. And with this, it's literally clearing the vessels and by the chakras. So by that technology that we have within us, that chakra system, it's literally coming up like the coiled serpent, as they always say, like in the Hinduism, they call it a coiled serpent. It's known as the Uriah in Kemet. Same thing, coming up. And once that pierces that third eye, our perception of everything completely changes. So
Mm.
you do see people who are walking around with a mask over the mouth, but there has been a mask over the eyes or the inner eye for so long, that calcification of that pineal gland, not allowing
Yeah.
people to see or feel their own presence as inner
Yeah.
beings. So the more we tap into our own
Mm.
technologies, we do literally realign our power. Our power
Mm.
is a potent, potent time. Potent. And I've just literally tapped into the waves, especially the 2020 eclipse. Now I would really love Galactic Glide to touch on that, about the eclipse that's just happened and the new moon, and what would be like the correlation between the new moon, or not the, well, the eclipse, and the fact that the solstice was happening at the same time.
Yep, that's exactly where we were going. Yes, Galactic. Can I set up the build? Can I set up the build for that question?
Yes, good.
All right. I mean, first of all, I just want to big up the chat. Love and respect for tuning in. I'll just do some shout outs. We got Ricardo, we got Melanated Goddess, we got Karia Marie, we got Ultra Funky, Indigo Star, Voice of Reason, and the mighty King Simon of the US. Respect for chiming in, King, and definitely want you on this show, man, to talk some numerology, King Simon. But some of the comments has been that Ultra Funky said, Ankara, that you represent Mother Nature, your representation of Mother Nature. And Cara Marie said that the battle is metaphysical.
Mm-hmm.
So big up to the chat. And yeah, I mean, I went down with Galactic to Glastonbury over the weekend. I just said, when you going? And he's like, tomorrow. I'm like, okay, I'm there. You know, I got up in the early hours of the morning to be there. We had an enchanting journey, a full day from AM to the early hours of the night. And yeah, a lot of just beautiful experiences and downloads were had. So we're going to close up soon in the next 10 minutes, but I wanted you to expand upon that, Galactic Clyde, about your experience of this particular visit to Glastonbury, and also addressing Ankara's question about the alignments.
Okay, yeah, it was a powerful experience because Glastonbury is a very powerful energetic center, one of the most powerful energetic center in the UK. The next one is actually Fintorn, where actually the energy grid, which is the grid point number 11, is in Fintorn. So the grid point coming up out of Africa and coming into Glastonbury area and move on up into, or splint off into London and all the way up to what is called grid point number 11. Grid point number 11 come off the grid point number 20 in Algeria in Africa itself. And so we're on the grid energy in terms of the link, and the one in Finpoint is like a cross. So the energy is very, very vibrant down in Glastonbury in connection to Stonehenge and the Tor. The Tor is an elevation, a mountain elevation. They said one time it was laid out as a labyrinth. Um, it's actually a little bit above the height of the Great Pyramid. So when we go on the tour, we're actually on the level, or the just a little bit above the Great Pyramid in terms of elevation. But in terms of energy,
Can I
yes,
just ask, when you say the tour, you're talking about the monument that we visited, right?
yeah, the mountain itself, that's where they call the Isle of Avalanche.
So what the
Avalon.
people? What was the name of the monument and location? The full name?
Well, there was a church that was built. The Church of Saint Michael was built up there on that mountain, on that peak. And
Okay.
actually, they said it was some. they had a disaster that some of it was destroyed. But it's an energy, the energy peak up there on the tour when it comes from and it comes from the abbey, go up to the tour, peak there, and ascend into the heavens. And so what they said that the tour represents a combination of a lot of the energies around the planet. It's like a grand central station, just like the Great Pyramid, and the energy to peak there and goes there. They call it the Saint Mary and Saint Michael line up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We can hear you
Yeah.
loud and clear. I know there's some
Okay.
some
Yeah.
people
This time, but let me see if I can
we
get
can
them.
still hear you. We can still
Hold
hear
on
you.
one second. Yeah.
So
Okay.
Ankara,
Sorry. Okay. Let me continue. Okay. Can you hear me good then? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So going there, we started at the Abbey because we went at the Abbey because we know that the psychic gate, as it's been called by Jane Fortune, located right at the Abbey because the Abbey was where all of the relics of the ancient world, a lot of relics from the ancient world, was stored there, as well as gemstones and minerals from the ancient world.
Remember,
And
you
that
remember which
area.
abbey that was? Sorry to interrupt. I just want to get the
Sorry.
clarity. Do you remember which abbey that was? The name of it?
The Glastonbury Abbey, that's what it's called, the
Right.
Glastonbury Abbey. Actually, when we pull up there, and while I was explaining about the Abbey, we felt the shift even before we went
Good.
into ceremonial mode. We start feel the energy there,
Let me
and
just expound upon that for Ankara. Listen, Ankara, we just pulled up in a minibus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know when you can see heat, like in the desert, you can kind of see the energy of heat, like the pulse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we kind of a van went past, but then we all felt this pulse travel through the van. It was like it went through all of us. It was an energy. It was like almost feeling heat pass through you. And we was all like, "Did you feel that?" I was like, "Did you feel that?" I was like, "Whoa," you know. But we were all very much
yeah.
aware of that, and it was no coincidence, you know. Yeah.
Mhm. What's also interesting about that, we had a serpentine stone bust of Marcus Garvey, which we were dedicated to the Marcus Garvey Village, as it's called, organization. And so we took it there, and serpentine and known are very powerful for sacred sites and also for the Kundalini activation. And so we were bond also with that energy. So we had a lot going on. We went up on the tour, and I tell you, we went into real powerful drum sessions, ceremonial mode, and yeah, it was a powerful shift up there on there when the energy came through.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
just to set up the build, we were on top of this ancient. Basically, the monument that we visited, it was on top of a mound. The mound was about half a mile high, maybe. You had to trek up it to get to the top. And when you get to the top, there's just this massive cathedral. And when you look around, they're like, how did they build this? There's no stones around. When you look aerial view, it's all green. There's no stone quarry. Like, how did they even build this thing? How did they get one rock at the top of this mountain? You know, that's the first thing. The second thing is that Galactic Clyde started drumming as he does, and then people, all sorts, you know, kind of new age hippies, kind of all sorts of people, you know, people that look like wizards, you know, it's like all sorts of type of people just started jamming with us. And then some guy randomly came with a Scottish bagpipe. He started jamming to the drum. We had a woman came with a didgeridoo, Australian didgeridoo, started jamming. It was like a United Nations jam festival. Amazing.
We
So
had a crystal ball as well.
a crystal bowl, a sound bowl, you know, and Clyde. I remember Clyde saying to me, you know, he said it was four corners, and Clyde said to me, "You see that corner there? That corner's got a lot of energy." And interestingly enough, just to summarize on that, we did see a beam of light, didn't we, Clyde? It was not that sunny, but
Yes,
this
when we look at the pictures.
beam of light came through. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, actually, it was all across your face in the pictures. The pictures are remarkable, and just to look at them, you see all the light frequency. The place was just like You know, when I send the video with people, they said they can feel the energy through the video. The place
Oh,
was like a rainbow over in the tour. It's
Yeah.
amazing
Yep.
because we had a shift there. And
Yeah.
so going back, we're talking about the eclipse, the new moon. We had a new moon in Cancer with an eclipse, and so we also enhance or work within that energy as well. Eclipse are known to as stop and start or shut down and open up energies. You know, so the eclipse came in right smack dab in connection to the summer solstice, which means that we're going to be in eclipse mode for the next 3 months, because the solstice and equinox anchors around 3 to 6 months in that sense, because one cancel out the other. So the next time in connection to the solstice would be in December, when we're gonna have another powerful shift where Saturn and Jupiter gonna be conjunct, um, which is gonna be really what we call the explosion, because one planet represents restriction and one represents expansion. When you have restriction and expansion, it equals explosion. So December is gonna be interesting. But
Okay. Hmm.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That's the time when winter hits again, and possibly there may be, hopefully not, there might be a second wave where people be restricted again.
mhm.
But in terms of this 3 month energy, Galactic Clyde,
Yes.
what can we expect? What can we expect? Generally in terms of that energy, the 3 months going on the eclipse. What kind of energy will that be?
Okay. Yes, well, the eclipse have to do with the moon in Cancer, because it was a new moon in Cancer. So it means that because the moon in Cancer is the ruler of the eclipse, and the moon rules the public, it rules our mother nature, it rules the mother principle, it rules the feminine energy, but it also rules the soul as well. And so it means that there'll be a lot of issues coming in the public setting. There's going to be a lot of people challenging the governments and issues, especially issues that are coming to the fore now. So there's a lot of public outcry, a lot of issues with the public taking back their power, moving forward, and especially because for the next from when we enter July, from July, first week in July to the second day of September, we enter what the Mayan call the blue castle of chaos and transformation. So it's going to be an interesting hot summer as it's getting heat up now, and as these energies of the more than one planet retrograde right now, it's going to be a lot of impact as we challenge the issues of new world disorder.
And I have to ask, like Galactic, what is the blue castle of chaos and transformation? What is that? You gotta break that one down.
The Mayan have a system. In the Mayan, with 220 60-day cycle, they they have it divided into 5 cycles, similar to the equinox and solstice. Called the you got the red castle, the white castle, the blue castle, the yellow castle, and the green castle. The most worrisome or problematic aspect that we have within the cycle is when we reach the blue castle of chaos and transformation. And this happens every 260 days and runs for 52 days straight. And so that's coming in the second week of July. So it's going to be very intensive as we move to that 52-day cycle. The last time was around December coming in, you know, coming in. Yeah, so we're coming into that very intense cycle again. And when that happens, it shifts us into a lot of it's called the court of magic. So a lot of magical, a lot of changes, chaos, a lot of things chaotic start manifesting and happening. You know, and there's a lot I could talk about that, but in the interest of time and the noise in the background, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does that clarify for you, Ankara, in terms of
Yeah,
your question?
thank
Yeah.
you. Like,
Okay. Well, we're gonna wrap up. Richie Rich, we're gonna wrap up shortly. I just wanted maybe closing comments from you both, and we'll have to do a part two. We'll have to kind of recap on what we spoke about today and how things shifted. Maybe in a few weeks or a few months. So Ankara, based on what we've been speaking about, do you have anything to summarize in terms of, you know, the build so far?
Really, knowledge of self and just tapping in and tuning into your frequency, your vibrational resonance, and letting that lead the way.
Okay. All right. Much thanks. Bless. And Galactic Clyde. Rich, are you there? Brother Richie Rich.
Yes, brother.
All right, we're
Yes,
about to close up, but I just wanted Galactic Clyde. Have you got any closing comments for the people in terms of the light messages we've been relaying this evening?
I would say take some time to connect both with the family and the real self in that sense. The moon not only represents the mother, but it also represents the inside of us, our inner self, our soul consciousness. And it's important for us to take time. If we don't meditate, to relax and contemplate and listen to the still small voices, it's called in certain religion, listen to that part of ourself that whispers in our ears and whispers the psychic messages to us. It is that we need to tune in, but also realize that the science of the astrology, the science of the psychology, psychic, and all of these are very important guidance for us now as we're going through what is called the Zeptepi, or the time of the first time. We're moving from one world to another world, and what we're experiencing is somewhat of a labor pain as we're birthing a new age.
Wow. Well, I think that's a beautiful note to summarize on. We are going through rebirth pains in this moment in time. So with that, I just want to say bless to both of you. Thank you for delivering your light, cold messages via Black Eyes TV7. And I would say, let's summarize, let the people know where we can get hold of you, and Rich will take it out. Rich will take the build to conclusion. So, Ankara, where can people get hold of you on Instagram, websites, etc., please?
My Instagram is soulgasmic.ascension, and you can pretty much get access to me just through Instagram.
Soulgasmic Ascension. Okay. And Galactic Clyde?
Yes, I'm off Facebook because they locked me out. But I'm anthology@hotmail.com. That's ANKHTOLOGY@hotmail.com. My phone number is 07961 476 356.
Yes.
And I do answer my phone.
Okay. And people, yes, book early for next year, 2021 Glastonbury Summer Solstice. It's every year. And I book early with Galactic Clyde and the family for a experience, really an experience out of this world. So on that note, I'd just like to say thank you and bless. And you can get hold of me. It's my name's right there. # Professor Khonsu, Prof Khonsu, and that will lead you to all the channels I'm on. So thank you, King and Queen, and I very much look forward to a part 2, just catching up on things, and we'll take it from there. So bless. So Richie Rick.
Yeah, big up to the family. Blessings for coming on and blessing Black Eyes TV7. People, as always, Thursdays coming around. Look out for our usual Total Exposure show tomorrow with artists performing, talking with the sisters, Mr. Riggs, all the rest of it. So tune in normal time as always, and then we shall see for the rest of the week. So keep an eye out for that. Big up to everybody who donated. Big up to JJP for your donation. Big up to, just highlight these people. Who was there? Ultra Funky. Big up to you. Yeah, for your support. Like, and subscribe the video. You know the routine, people. Yeah. So again, take care of yourselves. Tune in tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.